Women who like to be alone at home, listen carefully, because what feels safe, peaceful, and even empowering can also be the very thing that puts you at risk. I'm not here to scare you, I'm here to prepare you. Too often, women underestimate the dangers that come with isolation, with routine, with letting their guard down, and it's that underestimation that predators count on. So if you think being home alone means you're untouchable, you need to hear this message, because the reality is very different. When a woman chooses to spend time alone, especially in the comfort of her own home, it can feel like the safest and most empowering decision she makes. That solitude often gives her space to recharge, think, and be free from the noise of the world. But what many don't realize is that isolation, while peaceful, can also quietly invite vulnerability if it isn't paired with awareness and preparation. Being alone doesn't automatically make you unsafe, but it does mean there are fewer barriers between you and potential danger if it comes knocking. Criminals, opportunists, and even people you may know often look for gaps in a person's environment and behavior, and isolation can provide exactly that. The perception of safety can lull you into lowering your guard, believing that nothing can happen within the four walls of your home. This is a mistake, because isolation can work against you when there are no witnesses, no reinforcements, and no one to immediately intervene on your behalf. The danger doesn't always come from strangers lurking in the shadows. It can also come from patterns of behavior that others around you have learned to anticipate. Maybe it's the fact that you always stay home at certain hours, or that your lights go off at the same time every night, or that you never have visitors. Predictability makes you easier to target. People who are intent on taking advantage of you notice when you live alone and when you don't appear to have external checks or safeguards. This isn't to say that being alone is wrong, but that being alone without strategies to protect yourself can open the door to vulnerabilities you might not have thought about. Isolation also tends to make you rely too much on comfort zones. You may feel that locking your doors is enough, or that a camera system gives you total protection. But true safety comes from layers, from thinking ahead, from anticipating what could happen instead of hoping it won't. That might mean letting someone you trust know your routines, checking in with a friend at night, or ensuring your neighbors are aware of your presence and absence. It could also mean training yourself to react under stress, so that if someone does try to breach your space, you aren't frozen by shock. When you're isolated, you don't have the luxury of assuming help will arrive quickly. You are your first line of defense. There's also a psychological piece to this. When you get too comfortable with being alone, you can develop blind spots. You stop questioning whether you're making yourself an easy target. You stop challenging the assumption that because nothing has happened yet, nothing ever will. That mindset is exactly what predators exploit. They count on you thinking you're safe, so they can strike when your guard is down. This doesn't mean living in fear, but it does mean balancing independence with vigilance. You can love your solitude and still be strategic about protecting it. Ultimately, isolation is not the enemy. The enemy is failing to recognize what isolation signals to those who are watching. It says there may be no immediate consequences to their actions. It says there may be no one to stop them. But when you're aware of that dynamic, you can flip the script. You can make isolation your strength by using it to sharpen your senses, strengthen your boundaries, and prepare in ways most people don't. Alone doesn't have to mean unprotected. It only becomes dangerous when you forget that being alone makes you both powerful and vulnerable at the same time. Routine can feel like safety, like order, like control. Waking up at the same time, going about your day with familiar steps, locking up in the evening, switching off the lights at a predictable hour, it gives you comfort. But what we don't realize is that routine makes you predictable, and predictability is exactly what people with bad intentions look for. They study patterns. They notice when you leave, when you return, when you're most distracted, and when you're least likely to be paying attention. Every repeated action becomes a clue, and eventually those clues add up to a blueprint of your life. That blueprint makes you easy to anticipate, and when someone can anticipate you, They can control the situation before you even realize what's happening. Think about it. If you always take the same route home, anyone watching knows exactly where to find you and exactly how long you'll be there. If you always close your curtains at the same time, it signals that the house is winding down, possibly even empty. If you order food at the same hour every Friday, the delivery person, and anyone else who pays attention, knows you'll be waiting alone at the door. What feels like harmless habit is actually free information. Criminals don't need to be geniuses, they just need to be observant, and the more routine you become, the less work they have to do. Breaking routine doesn't mean living in chaos. It means adding unpredictability to your life in small but powerful ways. Walk a different route, switch the times you run errands, change the lights you keep on at night, and don't post your schedule on social media for the world to see. Unpredictability creates friction. It makes it harder for someone to anticipate your moves and harder to manipulate your environment. It sends the signal that you're aware that you're not an easy mark, that whoever is watching you will have to work much harder to figure you out. And most predators don't want to work hard, they want the easiest target. Routine also numbs your awareness. When you repeat the same actions over and over, your brain goes on autopilot. You stop noticing details. You don't see the same car parked outside for 3 nights in a row. You don't pick up on footsteps behind you. You don't notice that a stranger has timed their movements to match yours. Autopilot is convenient for getting through the day, but it's dangerous for self-protection. Because awareness is your strongest defense and routine erodes it, breaking up your patterns forces your brain to stay alert. It keeps your senses sharp. It makes you notice things you'd otherwise dismiss. There's also a deeper psychological effect. When you live in strict routine, you start believing that because nothing has gone wrong so far, nothing ever will. You convince yourself that safety is built into repetition. But safety is never guaranteed. It's created through preparation, awareness, and adaptability. Routine gives you comfort, but it doesn't give you protection. In fact, it can blind you to the very risks that exist in your comfort zone. Comfort can trick you into thinking you're secure when you're not. By stepping outside of rigid patterns, you're not just protecting yourself, you're reclaiming control in a smarter way. You're showing that your movements, your presence, and your environment cannot be easily mapped or manipulated. That unpredictability is powerful. It's what keeps predators second guessing themselves. It's what forces them to move on. And most importantly, it's what ensures that you are not the easiest target in the room, the street, or even in your own home. Boundaries are not just about telling people no. They are about sending a clear message of where you end and where others begin. When you set boundaries, you are not being difficult. You are being deliberate about your safety and your peace of mind. Too many women grow up being taught to be agreeable, to be accommodating, to soften their voice and avoid confrontation. That conditioning is exactly what makes it harder to say no when it matters most. And the reality is, people who want to cross the line with you depend on that hesitation. They look for women who second, guess themselves, who smile to keep the peace, who let small violations slide. But when you enforce boundaries, you show that access to you is not automatic and that respect is not optional. Every time you allow someone to push past your limits, even in a small way, you are teaching them how much you will tolerate. That coworker who gets too close in conversation, the friend who shows up uninvited, the stranger who keeps pressing after you've said you're not interested, each one of them is testing where your line is. If you let it slide, they learn that your line is flexible, but when you firmly and calmly enforce a boundary, you send the opposite message. You communicate that you are aware, that you are confident, and that you will not be easily manipulated. Predators avoid people who project strength because they don't want resistance. They want submission. Boundaries are more than words. They are behaviors. It's locking your door even when you live in a safe neighborhood. It's refusing to answer personal questions from someone you barely know. It's walking away instead of entertaining a conversation that feels off. It's choosing not to open the door just because someone knocks. These are small but powerful ways of saying you value yourself enough not to give away your space, your time, or your safety freely. People may label you as cold, standoffish, or rude, but remember this: their opinion does not protect you, your boundaries do. Enforcing boundaries also means learning to live with discomfort. Saying no often feels awkward at first, especially if you've been conditioned to say yes. But that moment of discomfort is nothing compared to the regret of allowing someone into your space who should have never been there in the first place. Discomfort is temporary, consequences are permanent. Boundaries protect you from reaching that point where you no longer have control. They give you the ability to decide who gets near you, how much of yourself you share, and what behavior you will never accept. The power of boundaries is that they work even when you are alone. Someone watching you will notice if you carry yourself like a woman who values her own space. They'll see if you hesitate or if you stand firm. They'll test if you're the type to give in to pressure or if you make it clear that pressure won't get them anywhere. Boundaries are like invisible armor. You may not see them, but others can feel them. And when your boundaries are consistent, they protect you long before danger arrives at your door. Ultimately, boundaries are not just about keeping others out, they are about keeping your strength intact. They remind you that your time, your body, and your space are yours to protect, not to hand over because someone else feels entitled. Boundaries are your way of saying you know your worth and you're willing to defend it. And when you live by that, people learn very quickly that you are not someone to be taken lightly. Awareness is one of the most underestimated skills you can develop, yet it is also one of the most powerful defenses you will ever have. Too often, people assume danger announces itself with obvious signs, but in reality, it rarely does. It shows up quietly, slipping in through the unnoticed details, the things you dismiss as unimportant, the moments when your mind is somewhere else. Awareness is about training yourself to notice those details before they become threats. It is about seeing the car that has circled your block more than once, recognizing the shift in someone's tone when they ask too many personal questions, catching the sound of footsteps that don't match your pace. These signals are small, but they are clues, and when you're alert enough to spot them, you gain time, and time in a dangerous situation is everything. Most people live distracted. They walk down the street with their heads buried in their phones, sit in coffee shops with earbuds in, or drive without noticing the cars around them. Distraction is the predator's best friend. If you're distracted, you are slower to react, slower to see what's happening, slower to protect yourself. By contrast, someone who carries themselves with awareness sends a completely different signal. Predators scan for easy targets, those who look lost, unaware, or oblivious. When you stand tall, make eye contact, and show that you're paying attention, you immediately make yourself less appealing. You're no longer low-hanging fruit. Awareness is not paranoia. It doesn't mean you live in constant fear, expecting the worst at every turn. It means you choose to live in reality. Reality is knowing that threats exist, but that you can recognize and respond to them before they escalate. It is walking into a room and noticing where the exits are. It is being aware of who's around you and what their behavior communicates. It is making a habit of scanning your environment the same way a professional does, calmly and without drawing attention, but always prepared. This level of alertness is a mindset, not a burden. It keeps you sharp without making you anxious. One of the reasons awareness is so powerful is that it keeps you out of denial. When something feels wrong, awareness helps you trust your instincts instead of talking yourself out of them. Too many people ignore red flags because they don't want to appear rude or overreacting. That hesitation can cost precious seconds, and those seconds can make the difference between safety and regret. Awareness teaches you to respect your gut, because your instincts are often your subconscious picking up on subtle cues your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. If something feels off, it usually is. Awareness also extends to your digital life. The same way someone can watch your routine in person, they can track your behavior online. Posting your location in real time, sharing too much about your habits, or oversharing personal struggles all give people a window into your life that they don't deserve. Being aware means protecting that information, treating it with the same caution you would your physical space. Because once someone knows too much about you, they don't need to guess. They already have what they need to target you. What makes awareness powerful is that it becomes second nature when you practice it. At first, it may feel like extra work to scan your surroundings, notice patterns, or track details. But over time, it becomes instinctive, like brushing your teeth or buckling your seatbelt. It becomes part of who you are. And that identity of a woman who is alert, sharp, and aware radiates strength. It tells the world you are paying attention, you are not an easy target, and you will not be caught off guard. Preparation is power because it gives you control long before danger ever reaches you. Too many people believe preparation starts in the moment of crisis, but by then, it is already too late. Real preparation happens in advance, in the quiet moments when you choose to think ahead rather than hope for the best. It is about building habits, systems, and responses that are ready to activate the moment you need them. Preparation takes away panic because you've already walked yourself through what could happen and what you would do. And when others freeze, you move. That is the difference between being caught off guard and being ready. Preparation is not paranoia, it is prevention. It starts with the basics, securing your home, knowing your surroundings, and having safety tools within reach. Locking doors and windows is not about distrust, it is about control. Installing cameras, alarms, or even simple lights is not about living in fear. It is about layering protection so that someone thinks twice before approaching your space. Having your phone charged, your emergency contacts set, or even rehearsing what you'd say if a stranger tried to pressure you at the door may seem unnecessary, until it isn't. These small steps create layers of defense that reduce opportunity for harm. Predators do not want obstacles. The more prepared you are, the less appealing you become. Preparation is also about your body and your mind. Do you know how you react under stress? Have you trained yourself to breathe, to move, to respond rather than shut down? Stress can paralyze people who have never thought about what to do. But if you prepare by running through scenarios, if someone grabs you, if someone follows you, if someone pressures you, you give yourself a script. And when adrenaline hits, that script takes over. It doesn't mean you'll perform perfectly, but it means you won't freeze in shock. Training your responses, whether through self-defense classes, mental rehearsals, or even visualizing your reactions, turns fear into readiness. Another form of preparation is your network, who knows where you are, who checks in with you, who would notice if something was wrong. Too many people isolate themselves without realizing that preparation also means building support. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as simple as texting a friend when you arrive home, sharing your location with someone you trust, or having a neighbor who looks out for you. Preparation creates accountability. It ensures that if something does happen, someone will know quickly instead of hours or days later. Mental preparation also means knowing your boundaries in advance so you don't waste time deciding in the moment. If someone shows up at your door uninvited, have you already decided how you'll respond? If someone pushes past your comfort level, have you rehearsed the words to shut it down? If someone tries to pressure you into giving personal information, have you practiced refusing? When you prepare these responses ahead of time, they come out strong and confident instead of hesitant. Hesitation signals uncertainty, and uncertainty invites more pressure. But preparation makes your no firm, your tone unwavering, and your boundaries unshakable. The beauty of preparation is that it builds confidence. When you know you've taken steps to protect yourself, you walk differently, you speak differently, you project differently. That confidence is something predators notice, and it deters them. They want people who are unsure, unaware, and unprepared, but a woman who carries herself with the quiet assurance of someone ready is far less likely to be chosen. Preparation doesn't just keep you safe, it changes the way you live. It allows you to embrace your independence, enjoy your solitude, and move through the world knowing that you are not powerless, you are not unaware, and you are not unarmed with strategy.